Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hello and welcome to Halftime Report. Well, we're halfway through the trading session. It's been a good one actually for the bulls because we're still holding with some gains. The Nifty is up close to around 40 points odd. But remember, the rest of Asia as well is doing pretty well. Those markets holding with good gains. And in that backdrop, the Nifty as well has decided to participate. Well, Sumera, things are looking pretty good. I was looking at the options data. And, that's giving you a sense that at least, maybe in today's trading session, the bulls will put on a fight. Now, we'll have to see whether or not the bears can overpower them. But if you pull up the 11,300 put, that's the most active. Now, that's added close to around 6.5 lakh shares. And that's giving you a sense that the bulls want to defend the recent low. That's 11,250, 11,230 or thereabouts if you're writing that particular strike. The 11,200 put, remember, that's the point where you have the highest open interest on the put side. Earlier this morning, that had close to around 4 lakh shares. So some of those positions are unbound. They moved to around that 11,300 odd mark. So let's see whether or not the bears can keep this up. But one thing for sure, Sumera, the broader markets, there is some pain. More number of stocks, few more stocks declining in comparison to the number of stocks that are advancing. So we'll have to keep that in mind as well. Moving towards the high point of the day, it's expiry today. So anyone who's taken a short position on the Nifty Bank, just keep that in mind. Today is the weekly expiry that plays out. And the Nifty Bank is doing a relative outperformance. We're seeing a 100-point gain in terms of the Nifty Bank. So just keep that in mind. From the broader markets as well, a few stocks are moving around actually. Jet Airways, that's a stock that's been under immense pressure. Now it's moved to around 240. Well, people are talking about a re-rating at 500, 600, 700, 800. But with the rupee weakening and your crude costs going up, it's giving you a lower margin in terms of, making any sort of money because there's intense competition out there in the aviation space. And in addition to that, you have the input costs that are going up. Keep an eye out on the broader markets. A few stocks out there. NCC Limited, that's up by close to around 2%. A bit of a move is what we have seen in the last couple of minutes. But I think we have the management of IRB Infra with us. Yes, IRB Infra is the stock in focus. Remember, that's on the back of the promoter buying close to around 1% in IRB InvIT fund. To discuss that and more, we're joined by Mr. Maheskar, the CMD of the company. Hi, Mr. Maheskar. Thanks so much, sir, for joining and pleasure talking to you as always. You picked up around 1% in InvIT, IRB InvIT. Tell us your plans. Do you expect to increase your stake further from here? And also importantly, the promoter entity, that's the IRB group. Are they looking at increasing stake out there as well?
Yeah, very good afternoon. Yes, we at IRB have been holding around 16% stake in the trust, and in my personal capacity also, I have gone ahead and bought a substantial chunk very recently. We believe that at an earning growth of 3 rupees per quarter, considering the concession life of next 18-20 years, it's a decent pricing at which it would make around 15-16% kind of an IRR on a AAA rated product, which to my mind is a phenomenal return considering where the GSEC is at today. Around 8%. So I think the underlying assets are very strong. They cover almost 400 kilometers of the golden quadrilateral length.
True.
And the quality of assets we are very well averse of. I mean,
right.
We very well know about them.
Right.
Yes.
Mr. Maheskar, just getting back to the first part of the question, you had bought some stake in your personal capacity in the InvIT, IRB InvIT. We are aware of that.
Yes.
What we're asking you is, will you buy more stake in the InvIT? And the second part, the sponsorer, that's IRB Infra, the listed company, will that be looking at increasing stake? Two-part question, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, so IRB already has bought almost 50 crores worth of units in the last 1 year. And we would certainly look at that option also for increasing the stake in InvIT going forward. But presently, as you rightly mentioned, as a promoter, I have bought the units in my personal capacity. And I look at it as a very phenomenal investment considering where the price is and the kind of earning profile the trust has. Okay. So for now, the purchasing has been in my personal capacity, and I would certainly like to add more because I have full faith on the assets that the trust holds, and they look to be very promising to me.
Hi, Mr. Maiskar. Good afternoon, sir. Any concerns that have been raised by investors because of the kind of shave-off that we've seen in the unit value?
Frankly speaking, no, we haven't seen any investor concern. Yes, there is certainly an anxiety as to why the price has underperformed, but to my mind, it is more because of lack of understanding of the product. We have to keep in mind that this was the first time somebody did an InvIT structure in India, and the product is still not well understood. There are some hiccups which we have taken with the regulatory bodies also with regard to the lot size and the kind of taxes and fees that one has to pay for buying this particular product. But other than that, if we look at the investor profile, I think most of the large names that hold these units, they have all increased their stake over a period of time. So I don't see a concern as such or lack of confidence, but I think the underlying assets also have performed well. So no such concern has been seen as from these investors.
All right. The tone that we're getting, Mr. Maiskar, is that you're sounding confident, you're sounding bullish on your own business, you've increased stake, and you're saying that, in fact, in the InvIT, all the large shareholders, they do continue to hold stake. So that's positive commentary that's coming in there. But importantly, since it's an InvIT, what's going to be the distribution this year? The street is working with a number, I think, of around 10 to around 12. I think you have indicated that in the past as well. That's on the cards, right? No change there.
Yes, InvIT, if you look at the past distribution profile or the kind of cash flow visibility that it has, it should be able to distribute earnings of around 3 rupees per quarter. So if you just look at a 12 rupee kind of a return on a 76, 77 rupees kind of a InvIT unit price at the moment, it gives you a 15-16% kind of a return on a AAA rated product. And with GSEC being at 8%, I think it's a very phenomenal return given where the market is and given where the other investment opportunities exist as on date.
Mr. Maiskar, let's talk about IRB Infra then. What is the ordering activity from NHAI looking like? I mean, I think the last time we had spoken, you had said for FY19 you could bag orders to the tune of about 9,000 odd crores. What is the update so far and what's the pipeline looking like?
Yeah, so if we look at FY18, as we had said, around 1,22,000 crores worth of orders were given out by NHAI. And out of those, around 70,000 crores were hybrid annuity and BOT together. In that, our market share was around 12%. We backed close to 9,000 crores of orders. And as you rightly said, yes, we have guided for this year also a similar kind of a run rate. And considering an election year, I think the government would be working towards rolling out these orders on a faster pace. That's my understanding. And with now NHAI getting a full-time chairman, I expect this activity to pick up very soon. So my sense is that another 70,000 to 1 lakh crore kind of ordering I am expecting to happen in this financial year. And certainly we will like to maintain our market share in that as what we had last year.
So 7,000 to 8,000 crores is at least something that we could work with, Mr. Maiskar, if I just derive those numbers. All right, let's move on then. You know, in the past, you've been saying that you're at advanced stages of closing around 3 HAM products, that's hybrid annuity model projects. Is that happened? Is there any progress out there?
Yes. So as regards the project awards that happened in by March 18, all these projects need to achieve financial closure. Probably as a sector as a whole, there has been a lot of concern whether the financial closure will happen on time or not. Certainly with the shrunk lending community, there is a concern. But as regards IRB is concerned and where the talks are presently, I can surely say that we should be achieving the financial closure on all the 3 hybrid annuity projects as well as the BOT projects in next 1 or 2 months. I expect the hybrid annuity financial closure to get announced probably 1 or 2 of them this month itself and the balance 2 in the coming month. So I'm very confident that we should be able to declare these closures very soon. And given the strong balance sheet strength of the company, I don't see any issue in terms of achieving this closure in time.
All right, Mr. Maiskar, you know, since we have you with us, You had bought some stake even in IRB Infra. If I look at the disclosures in this quarter itself, you had bought roughly around 5 lakh shares, if I'm not mistaken. Two-part question. Are you looking at increasing stake in the listed company, that's IRB Infra, because the stock price has corrected by more than 100 rupees from the recent high? And also there's a lot of speculation out there that IRB Infra could be looking at divesting some stake in the company. Please clarify on that, sir.
As regards IRB is concerned, you are right. I bought 500,000 shares in this past 3 months, and I will certainly look at adding more given where the price is. I think the concern has overblown as regards the whole sector is concerned, and differentiation between the companies which have strong performance track record and stronger balance sheet and the ones which are not having that has not been made. And across the sector, I think we have seen a significant correction as far as the stock price is concerned. And I certainly feel that it's a good entry point for making more investment, and I would certainly look at adding more.
Yes, sir. What about the second part, sir? Is there any possibility that IRB Infra, you're adding stake, so the promoter stake is moving higher, but is there a possibility that you could be diluting some stake to any kind of interested parties?
No, I don't think there is any truth in terms of those news flows are concerned. We continue to hold a significant portion of the shareholding, and we don't have any plans of divesting or raising any equity at this point in time.
So, Mr. Maiskar, you're clarifying here on CNBC Tv18 that IRB Infra is not in talks and not looking at any kind of stake sale, right?
Yes, we are not in talks for any kind of stake sale at this point in time. And we have a strong balance sheet to execute the existing set of projects. We are fully well funded to undertake these projects. And we also have a QIP resolution in place in case if we end up winning TOT project or get any significant orders going forward. So I don't see a need to immediately raise capital at this juncture. We are well capitalized, and we are also on track to achieve the financial closure very soon.
Right.
So we will start the rollout of these projects once the closure is done, and then look at winning new orders going forward.
But in this fiscal, the QIP is not possible.
I don't think there is any need to do a QIP this fiscal, because as I said, we are sitting on a cash of 1,500 crores, and we are well funded for the existing ongoing projects.
Okay.
The outstanding equity requirement for the 4 new projects plus the balance equity on the existing projects is around 2,600 crores.
Right.
And if you look at the cash generation of almost 1,300 crores on an annual basis, the equity required to be deployed over the next 3 years is very well funded.
Thanks so much, Mr. Maiskar, for joining in. You're sounding bullish both on the listed company, that's IRB Infra, as well as IRB InvIT. The stock price, though, has seen a sharp correction from the top. And more importantly, you're clarifying to us here on CNBC Tv18 that at this point of time, IRB Infra is not looking at divesting any stake in the company at this point of time, is what Mr. Maiskar told us. So we'll keep an eye out on that front. By the way, the markets... Suddenly, in the last few minutes, there has been some selling. The Nifty Bank has come off the high point of the day. I was telling you that it was doing a relative outperformance. That's quickly come away. Axis Bank should come up for you. Yes Bank as well should come up for you. The Nifty Bank itself has corrected close to around 100 points odd. And in the last few minutes, there's been a lot of selling. Bajaj Finance, pull up the intraday chart. That stock as well has seen some selling pressure. A lot of these, the cost of funds of borrowing really could go up for them. And that's why, in fact, some of these stocks have come in for some selling pressure. So keep an eye out on that one. But I think the reason that the Nifty Bank has taken a leg down is because ICICI Bank, from holding with gains of around 1.5%.
A bit of a neck in the market. So the Nifty is just about holding on to that 11,300 mark for now. We're holding with just about 20 points on the Nifty. And in fact, it's gone below that 11,300 mark. And the Sensex now just seeing about a 54-point lead. The mid-cap index, it's been the underperformer today, but that has increased its cut. So the index itself now down about 0.3%. But let's talk about the stocks then which are in focus. It's time for movers and shakers. And let's start off with Sonal, who's going to tell us what's going on with Titan. Sonal.
Yes, thanks a lot for that. And Titan is declining in trade today under some pressure, and that is because CLSA has downgraded the stock to a sell from an outperform. They've also cut the target price to 720 versus 1050 earlier, and this comes in after rupee depreciation and the government saying that there could be stricter policies for imports. Also, there are reports that are indicating that there could be a possibility of higher import duty on gold. So these are 2 points that is worrying the brokerage. Apart from that, they also think that there are concerns related to growth because Titan could not meet its Q1 FY19 guidance, and that is something they think will impact the FY19 growth as well. So overall, they are worried of the impact of a potential hawkish stance on gold regulations, and this is something they think will impact the premium valuations that Titan is enjoying. And this comes in after Credit Suisse had also cut the target price back on 12 September. They had cut the target price from 950 to 935. They also expected that Titan's growth will slow down further in near term. They expect a growth rate of around 16% in FY19. However, they have cut the EPS estimates by 2 to 3%. So that is something these two brokerages are saying, and this is after the management told us back in August that the jewelry segment growth that they had earlier guided by around 25% is under observation, and they will be able to do around 20% growth, and that's why Titan is in focus. Back to you.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much for that, Sonal. Well, the NBCC stock, that's sulking in trade following some uncertainty in some of the key projects. Earlier today, we spoke with Mr. Anup Kumar Mittal, the chairman and MD of the company, who says that the company expects the stuck projects to start soon. Let's listen in.
I have no doubt that these projects will start very soon. So, of course, in last 3 months, since July onward, these projects are under hold. There will be some hit on revenue in this quarter, but we'll make up that revenue from the other projects which we have recently got. The guidance which company has given initially in the financial year, that the revenue growth of 30 to 35% will be there in this financial year. Definitely we will maintain that. Second quarter will be better than first quarter, means there will be minimum 30% increase in revenue from the same quarter of a previous year. So quarter on quarter, year basis, this quarter will also show minimum 30% growth in the revenue.
All right, a whole host of other stocks also making news today. So over to Anisha for her quick list on stocks making news. Anisha.
Thank you so much for that. I'll start with Punj Lloyd. Now that one is in focus as Delhi High Court has not really given any verdict when it comes to its plea that has to be submitted under the IBC proceedings. The Delhi High Court has basically said that the Supreme Court is looking at such matters, and hence they have deferred the proceeding to November 19. So positive news, and the stock is reacting positively. Rights also has been in focus since morning, and that is because that one has bagged an order worth around 430 crores. So that one is moving higher. Other than that, these steel stocks are in focus, given there are some reports that the government is considering to raise the import duties on some steel products to 15%, and that's the reason these stocks like JSW Steel, SAIL and Tisco are moving higher in trade. And lastly, sugar space has been buzzing. The decision regarding the export subsidies was not taken today, but it is expected that the cabinet will decide on it next week, and these sugar stocks are buzzing on back of that.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much for that, Anisha. Well, some of these AMCs, they're getting knocked back, and HDFC AMC, what a glorious listing it had, but the stock is under pressure today. Rima is going to tell us about all those details. The fees have been cut. Good news for investors, but not too good news for the AMC listed companies. Rima, over to you.
Yes, the news is that SEBI has cut the total expense ratio, or TER, for mutual funds, and this expense ratio cut progressively increases for larger schemes as well as for those with a higher equity share in their AUM. So therefore, the impact is most on HDFC AMC as well as Reliance Nippon AMC. Now, just to give a breakup, so the impact on AMCs with an AUM of less than 2,000 crore rupees is negligible. For AMCs with an AUM between 2,000 to 5,000 crore rupees is roughly about 10 basis points, and for AMCs with an AUM in excess of 5,000 crore rupees, the impact is anywhere between 20 to 30 basis points. Now, yesterday's cut in the total expense ratio comes over and above the 15 basis points cut in the expense ratio which had come through in June, and at that time, CLSA tells us that the mutual funds had passed on about 70 to 100% of the impact to the distributors. So now the question arises is that will the AMCs be able to pass on the negative impact of this by lowering the distribution commission to the distributors? CLSA says that if the mutual funds manage to pass on about 50 to 70% of the TER cut, then the impact on the earnings will moderate to about 10%. But the other question arises is for the larger schemes, will they lose market share? Because now distributors could migrate to smaller AMCs due to better commissions, because the smaller AMCs are not impacted that much by the TER cut. So therefore, they may not cut back on their commission. A few brokerages, Nomura has downgraded a Reliance Nippon AMC to a neutral. They've cut the target price to 210. JM Financial too has cut the target price on Reliance Nippon. They've lowered the target price to 275. Morgan Stanley has written on HDFC AMC, where the target price is lowered from more than 2,000 rupees to 1,765. Though they continue to maintain an overweight rating, while CLSA on ICICI Securities says that the mutual fund distribution fees form about 15% of their revenues, and a 10 basis points cut in their fee could impact their FY19 PBT by roughly 4%. Back to you.
Rima, thanks very much for that. Let's also hear out what some of the ex-industry insiders rather are making of this. Here's a quick take from Ashish Somaya, the CEO of Motilal Mutual Fund.
The point that you cannot pay upfront commissions means that even if there was any scope to influence someone by way of commissions, then I think that is out of the window. And I think in the investor interests, the AMC's interests, and the advisor or distributor's interests, everything gets aligned, because if you are in the fund and the fund is performing, then everybody gets their due fees. My sense is that the gross inflow would decline, and at the same time, the rotation or churn of funds, someone moving in and moving out, that also would decline. So I think on the inflows, outflows across the board, I think you will see slightly lower volumes than what you have been seeing in the past.
Okay, here's a quick recap of all the top buzzing stocks that we just covered. We have those AMC companies, Reliance Nippon AMC, HDFC AMC, Titan, Sun Pharma, Punj Lloyd, Ritz, steel stocks like JSW Steel, Tata Steel, as well as SAIL, NBCC, as well as sugar stocks like Balrampur Chini, you have Dwarikesh, and Simboli Sugar as well. Keep an eye out on the markets though as well, before we slip into that short break, because the Nifty has breached that 11,300 mark, and even the advanced decline ratio should come up for you, because when we started the show, they were even Stevens. Now, just in the last 20 minutes or so, those lines have crisscrossed each other, and the number of stocks that are declining are far more than the number of stocks that are advancing. And the Nifty Bank plays out their expiry today, the weekly expiry, and that's always going to be a risk, because that can really move around.